Welcome to Geeking Poetic Podcast.
Where a movie's so good, we review it twice.
All right. What's going on, everybody?
How you doing?
What is up?
What's up? Welcome back to Geeking Poetic Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Larry Roberts. Across this noisy glass table that Megan keeps pounding on is my erstwhile friend and companion, none other known as...
Vito Marchese.
And then the pound hound over here. He keeps banging on the table, making all the racket, trying to dial in these microphones just right. And then Megan's got to keep banging on the table.
It's fun.
Yeah. You look like you're having fun when you do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
We should get noise suppressing foam for the table before we get it for the room.
Right. Exactly. We'll just stuff a bunch of foam here underneath the glass and everything. That'll look awesome.
Totally.
Otherwise known as, over here in the middle, we have...
Megan Guess. And I have a bug on my microphone.
You do have
Really?
Dude, that's... How perfect. I think that's an ant.
Oh,
It's Anthony.
Oh, hi, Anthony.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a little flying ant.
Great.
If he starts playing drums, we're keeping him.
Yeah, it's a little flying ant.
He can keep Mr. Pickles company.
I'm going to have another ant problem this summer.
Oh, boy.
Son of a bitch.
Well, it's fitting that we're going to talk about a movie that features Ant-Man.
That's true.
Because what we're here to talk about today is we are going to do... Vito's just staring. Vito's just staring at this ant crawling all over Megan's stand. Just like... We're like amused by it, and Vito's like, son of a bitch. We are here to talk today. We're going to just do a little audio cast. We figured you don't need to look at our mugs because you already saw the video one we did for this. But we are going to talk about Avengers Endgame. Some of you are going to say, but wait a minute, didn't you guys already talk about Avengers Endgame? Well,
Not really.
We barely scratched anything to do with that movie because we didn't want to spoil it for you because we literally saw it the night it came out.
right.
Mhm.
Yes, we saw it on opening night.
And then we went and saw it again. And now that the ban is lifted,
Right.
we can gab about it now.
Right. Yeah, because the Russos, the directors, and Kevin Feige and all of them in charge kind of asked people, said, hey, don't be douchebags. Don't spoil it because there's a lot of surprises in this movie. So they kind of imposed a ban on people, and most people abided by it. There was some people that didn't. But yeah, that's long since gone. Everybody's been yapping about this. And, the movie's been out for like 3 weeks now, almost. Something like that, 2.5 weeks, whatever it is. Maybe it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks? I forget.
Right at 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's right about that. So it's been out for a couple weeks. So
It's going out to DVD next week, I think, isn't it? No?
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so we thought we'd talk about it, especially because we actually had a bunch of you guys say to us, oh, I'm really curious to hear what you guys think for real about this movie, because they watched the spoiler-free one and said, okay, well, cool, you guys liked it, or in some cases, I'm not sure if they liked it. Yeah, we're still going to debate about that. But people want to hear more. We weren't sure if we were even going to do this. We were like, oh, maybe. But once I heard you guys saying, no, we want to hear what you think, then all right.
We're here to please.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about it. First and foremost, let me address the fact that as of recording right now, this movie has made at the box office internationally, so it's including North America and elsewhere. It has made $2.5 billion.
What?
That's insane.
Actually, more than that. It's closer to $2.6 billion.
Wow.
It is the fastest grossing movie of all time.
Wow.
Yeah. And it has also moved into the second most profitable box office movie of all time, behind Avatar.
Wow, Avatar did that?
Fucking A. I don't get it. I don't get it.
You
I
guys
haven't
are
seen.
hating on
I haven't seen
Avatar.
Avatar. I just knew it was a ripoff of Ferngully, so I just never wanted to watch
It's
it.
It is a
Totally.
ripoff of Fern
Right?
Gully. Yeah.
Exactly.
It can't reach Fern Gully,
Yeah, no,
but
they can't.
it's good.
Fucking Fern Gully ripoff, motherfuckers. Fuck. I've never seen. I here's the thing. I'm being one of those people. I know. I can't help it. Every now and then, you just got to throw me a bone. All right. I'm being one of those people that's judging it without having really properly seen it. But I know the whole story. Of course I do, because I've read it and I'll read up on it and stuff.
And you've seen Fern Gully.
And I've seen Fern Gully, and I've seen parts of it and everything, and it's just like, There's nothing about it that makes me go like, man, maybe I should see this, you know? And the bits I've seen of it, I'm like, because people are like, Avatar's amazing. You haven't seen it? Oh my God, you should see it. It looks amazing. So I was like, whoa. So then I watched parts of it and I went, this looks like ass. This blue fucks look like assholes. Like, I can't stand even the way they look at you with those eyes. I'm making the face now. That weird cat face kind of. I'm like, this looks like shit. And then, like I said, and then I read the story and I'm like, wait a minute. I know this story already. Now, that doesn't completely discredit it as being no good. But I don't, much like the band Ghost, I don't get it. It's like, okay, I've already seen and heard this before. There's nothing about it that makes this the greatest thing of all time. But people apparently know better than I do because it's the greatest grossing movie of all time. So
that's nuts, man.
It is nuts. So Avengers Endgame has surpassed Titanic. Think about that.
Damn.
I know.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we'll see, because you and I are the Avatar dissers, and she's the Titanic hater.
Really?
What kind
I
of
don't
woman
see
are
what the
you?
hype is about.
You got to be like the only female I've ever met that feels that way about Titanic.
Yeah, it's okay, I guess. I just don't get what the big hype is about.
You know what the ending is. It's like you're not going to get anything special, right?
Right? So anyway, what were we
Yeah,
really here
sorry. Yeah, I know. Here we go again. Well, anyway, so the point is that this movie is just doing gangbusters. It's incredible. I mean, I knew this was going to be big. I mean, it's the culmination of all these movies, but wow, I didn't know it was going to be this big, because it's like far surpassed Infinity War. Like Infinity War, I think only made like a fraction of this much. Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, Infinity War. Well, okay, first of all, this movie, Endgame, grossed over $2 billion in 11 days. Avatar took 47 days.
Wow.
To make $2 billion. Now, granted, that was how many years ago, too?
Right.
But so, inflation and things like that. But
I wonder if there's going to be a resurgence of like the summer blockbuster, like where a studio dumps, the most amount of money ever spent in the history of movies that summer, and then they make it big. I wonder if that's going to be a trend now in Hollywood. If these smaller budget movies aren't going to get made as much, that would suck.
Anthony's on my computer now.
Wow, he's fast moving.
Yeah, that's a fast ant. Wow. Anyway, yeah, I think it is. I totally do. I think that they're eking their way back towards that now, because first of all, because Disney owns everything, and Disney's all about big blockbuster type movies, and all the stuff that they've been announcing. Because speaking of, they're going to do 3 movies following up Avatar now. They've already announced they're going to do another Star Wars trilogy. It's going to be, but if I understand, it's going to be like a new story. I don't think it's going to have like, 3PO and R2D2 and shit in it. And the interesting thing from what I heard is the Star Wars thing is supposed to be helmed by the people that are doing Game of Thrones. So it might be a little more epic and dark, and I'm kind of down with that at this point. But anyway, I do think that these Marvel movies have brought that back, because I know at the beginning of the 2000s, the 21st century, it seemed like that was sort of considered a thing of the past. We had they had their last gasp then in the 90s, which we'll talk about eventually. Talk about summer blockbusters and things of the 90s, but I can't see how they making this kind of money. I can't see how they're not going to. It's kind of funny that they're talking about waiting a while before they do any more Marvel movies. Like, you'd think they'd want to jump on that a little bit quicker, unless they've gotten a little shy about that because of the whole Star Wars debacle.
Well, now they have so much to choose from. They kind of need to step back and decide where they're going to go with everything.
Right.
Instead of just half-ass go in real quick just to put out a movie. I'd rather them take their time and put out something good.
Oh, I'm totally down with that. Yeah, I'd rather they not rush it out, absolutely. But I'm just saying, I'm kind of surprised they didn't at least have announcements more ready, because I thought, like, after Endgame was going to come out and everything, that they'd be like, okay, now we're going to announce that on this date it's going to be Doctor Strange 2, and then we're going to release Submariner, and we're going to, you know what I mean? And they're just like, oh yeah, we're going to wait on all that. It's like, oh, interesting. Kind of give them props for like having that sort of restraint.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where Anthony went. He went crawling off somewhere.
He'll be back.
I'm sure he will. But so another good thing about us waiting a little while to do this full spoilerific review, which again, if you people, we'll put it in the title and everything. Nothing's going to be held back. It's all spoilers. So don't go whining about it. If you're like, you ruined it, it's like, you fucking douchebag. What did you listen to it for then? It says right there, like, come on, man.
You had 2 weeks
You had 2
or
weeks,
more.
exactly.
Yeah, you had 2 weeks. You blew it. But anyway, but now that we've had 2 weeks to kind of absorb it, and you guys saw it twice, I've seen it 5 times.
5?
Oh my
Jesus.
gosh.
Yeah. But anyway, so we've had enough time to really stew about it, and so I kind of want to go around and just get like preliminary thing. I mean, you sort of stated your general feelings in the spoiler-free review, but like starting with you, Vito, like, what is your opinion of this movie? Your general opinion before we get into the nitty-gritty.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. And that's really saying something, kind of like I mentioned before. That's really saying something coming from Vito, because Vito is not a Marvel or a superhero fanboy by any means.
I've actually suffered superhero burnout like multiple times, but then I'll go watch one of these movies and it's like, oh yeah, these are actually really fun.
Yeah.
And this was no exception, man. It was epic. It was emotional. It was like it had the perfect ending for me, and the perfect ending to the series, or this phase 3 of whatever they're doing. Right. Yeah, it was awesome, man. Great time in the theater.
Right.
Glad I got to see it twice.
Right.
I probably would have gone another time if I had more time.
You're right.
Yeah,
Right. Well, I might be able to hook you up with
Yeah,
that. So
okay.
I'm not going to say anything about that. Anyway, Megan, now yours was the dissenting opinion when we saw it the first time. You were the one that seemed quite underwhelmed. Has that changed at all since seeing it again?
I guess I softened a little bit towards it, but I'm still a little underwhelmed.
Interesting.
But I have to admit, it was better the second time. I think because I had like a week or two or whatever it was before we went and saw it again to kind of absorb it and think about it and look up some stuff about it. So I caught more things the second time, and it did actually was more emotional for me the second time.
Okay.
For some reason, because like with Tony dying and stuff like that didn't affect me at all. I was like, okay, whatever. But the second time it did.
Okay.
So maybe I just missed the subtle things that made it so emotional the first time. I don't know, but I don't know. There's just still something about it that I'm still underwhelmed about.
Okay. Well, we'll delve into that. We'll see if we can get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, we'll see, because I can't put my finger on it.
Right. And as for me, I guess I'm still kind of somewhere in the middle, although now that I've seen it so many times, I enjoy it much more than when I first saw it and we did that spoiler-free review.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I saw it, I leaned, I think, more towards your way of thinking on it.
Okay.
That I enjoyed it, but I don't know. And now after I've watched it more, I really, really fucking like that movie. Like,
Interesting.
I really like that movie. Now, that's not to say that I don't still have some complaints about some of the things in the movie, because I do. But the parts of it that I like, I love. You know what I mean? Like the parts that I really like, I'm solid on that. And there's things that I have kind of warmed up to now. I guess that the initial shock or disappointment or whatever has kind of worn off on me. There's things that I'm like, that when I first saw it, I was like, like I said in the other review, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And now that I'm used to it, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I mean, do you guys want to just like delve into it, start talking about all these things?
Yep.
Well, I mean, I don't want to dwell too much on negative because we've always tried not to do that. But let's just sort of get let's get those points sort of more out of the way before we go on about like the things that we did like.
Okay.
So I think these are going to be the things that are going to be a little bit more debatable amongst us. You know, one of the things, speaking for me, one of the things that I wasn't feeling the first time I saw it, and I've warmed up a little bit to it, or I've just gone numb to it, was some of the humor.
Agreed.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm actually the opposite. The first time we watched it, I was like, damn, this is really fucking funny, and I got into it. The second time we watched it, I was like, oh, that's really lame, actually. You know?
Well, but I think that's kind of typical of a lot of humor. I mean, some really good humor, like you can watch it a million times and it's going to make you laugh each time. But I think, and I think that's the problem. I think a lot of the humor in this movie was kind of cheap humor.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
cheap humor for sure.
Yeah, I was expecting to get a good lot of laughs, enjoy it, and I didn't.
Like when we saw like Ant-Man and Wasp, like
Exactly.
those jokes were kind of corny, but they
Were you
weren't
like,
like
bloop?
cheap, you know? Yeah. You know, I don't know.
Well, what's funny about that is that I felt like one of, and rightfully so, because he's so goddamn funny in everything he does. I thought one of the people that was genuinely funny throughout this movie was Paul Rudd.
Yes.
Ant-Man. He was great. Like there was no scene with him in it that I didn't like. Like he really has become to me, one of the best characters in the MCU.
Agreed.
Which is funny because I didn't think he was going to be that for me at all.
Right.
Yeah,
You weren't that interested.
Because I love Paul Rudd as a comedian outside of, superhero movie. But then I saw Ant-Man. I was like, actually, this works really, really well. Especially in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes.
I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I do too. Yeah. No, and yeah, it's interesting that would happen because in as much as that I love Iron Man, I love Captain America and all that kind of stuff, I'm at the point where now I'm like, because again, spoilers that, Iron Man and Captain America are gone. As far as we know, that this was it. This was the end of their story. I'm like totally okay with that. I'm like, okay, good. That's fine because give me more Ant-Man, give me more Black Panther, give me more Doctor Strange, give me more Falcon and Winter Soldier, give me more Scarlet Witch. Like I want more of those characters. I have grown to love those and become so intrigued by those characters that I want more of that. And I think that this movie did a pretty good job, at least, of setting that up for me.
Yes, I can agree with that.
But where the characters that really let me down on, even though they had moments, don't get me wrong, but the characters that really let me down, I know Vito's going to agree with me on this, is Hulk.
Yes.
And
Oh my
Thor.
God, yes.
Yeah.
And Thor. Now, that's not to say both characters were, bad. They weren't bad. And especially when we get to the final battle and Thor finally kind of
Gets his shit together.
Finally.
Sort of, kind of. Yeah, kind of gets his shit together. Becomes the god of thunder again, like he should be. Like, that was awesome, but I don't know, man. I felt like, and now they're going to drag it on into Guardians 3 with the whole fat, drunk Thor kind of thing, and I'm like,
You
man.
think he's still going to be fat and drunk? I hope not.
I don't know.
It would fit with that series, wouldn't it?
It would, and that's what I'm worried
Maybe.
about.
Yeah, I hope not.
Or do you think they're going to go more serious?
Because I liked him more with the Guardians in an Infinity War than I did in this part. But seeing that scene made me really excited for Guardians 3 because I would love that dynamic if it was like an Infinity War.
Yeah.
Not Endgame.
Yeah, the Infinity War dynamic was better than this one for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that a better balanced Thor like you got in Ragnarok, where there was plenty of comedy there.
Right.
But also still him kind of being Thor, being a badass still, and kind of sort of still troubled and angsty, at odds, with his role in the universe or whatever.
Yeah, bring me the Infinity War comedy between him and Rocket, not Endgame between him and Rocket. I didn't find that amusing in any form.
Well, they barely had those two even together,
Yeah.
and they kind of took away the him and Rocket thing, in which I thought they were going to continue.
Except for when they went to go get the stone and stuff, they were together. But even they separated them then, I guess. So never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, that's one thing I expected more from, and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So there we go, one down.
Yeah, and you know what? Even that, and they even kind of took that a little too far. But even that scene, they redeemed that scene with Rocket and him going back in time to Asgard.
Mm-hmm.
They redeemed that with the whole Rene Russo as his mother kind of
Right.
coming in and talking. Like that was like a good necessary scene. But I kind of hoped that. Now, granted, I guess there really wasn't much time after that. But I really kind of hoped that after him talking to his mother like that and everything, that was going to be what was going to no pun intended, snap Thor out of his, snap him out of his funk and make him like it would have. I guess it just doesn't work that way. But when he grabbed those and he summoned the lightning to the start of the battle at the end, and he grabbed the hammer and the axe. And then all of a sudden his beard suddenly was braided and all this and all this shit. And it's like when he was like that, I thought maybe we'd get like the slimmer, tougher Thor, but it was still as we saw then by the follow-up scene at the end with him and Valkyrie and the Guardians, that he's still basically like goofy, fat, drunk Thor. And I was like, oh, really? I had higher hopes than that. And then as far as the Hulk thing,
that selfie scene at the diner or whatever,
Oh
that
my
was
God.
the second time I was like, oh man, let's pass this part like really quickly now. First time I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of okay, it's kind of funny, but
the
then,
funniest part in it is Paul Rudd again.
Yeah.
He is funny. Just take the goddamn camera.
Yeah, exactly.
That was funny, but
The rest of it, not so funny.
no.
yeah, I don't. It's funny because you know what? I like Ruffalo. I like Mark Ruffalo. I like him as Bruce Banner. Like I like having Banner in there. I don't care for Hulk. I'm so picky about my Hulk, man. Like
It's Lou Ferrigno or nothing, man.
it kind of is in a way, but not exactly. I just like when I liked the Hulk. And again, I know you're going to say, well, and maybe this would make a difference for you because I know you don't like the Hulk.
Mm-mm.
The Hulk in Age of Ultron.
I haven't seen Age of Ultron.
Okay,
so.
see, you need to see
Okay.
it. Okay. The Hulk in Age of Ultron, it's really cool. For one thing, it sets up the whole dynamic between him and Natasha and stuff. And just the way I can go on forever about this, but just trust me. The way they set up the Hulk in that movie, I really liked the Hulk. Because up till that, even in the first Avengers movie, I didn't care for the Hulk. I was like, he still looks kind of wonky, and they just make him kind of goofy. And like this scene at the end of the Avengers when he just punches Thor, out of nowhere, kind of thing. I was like, okay, they're making him like a big goofy goofball knucklehead. But in Age of Ultron, he's very serious. Like it's a totally different thing. And especially the way they balance out Banner and him, and it's awesome. And the story between him and Natasha, it's great. So it'd be worth you watching it. But
Now, is that the one where he's like throwing Loki all over the place? Which one is
No,
that?
that was the first one.
That was the first one. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
That was funny.
It was funny, but they just made him like a big clod, you know.
Mhm.
And the second one, it gets way more complex. Both characters, Banner and him, which then led to Ragnarok. That's why he wound up on the other planet
Right.
and all this stuff. And Ragnarok, Hulk and Ragnarok, it was okay. It was all right, you know. But I know some people sit there. I just argued with Matt, my buddy Matt,
Mhm.
that said Thor Ragnarok's the best Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You're just wrong. I know everybody has an opinion, but you're just wrong.
It's not the best Marvel movie.
It's
ever.
good.
It's up there if you listen to my top 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll link to that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I don't know. Just the Professor Hulk thing. I wasn't against the idea of doing Professor Hulk, but I
didn't like the outcome.
I thought they could have done better with it. They made him too like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
what do you know?
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
like, and I thought, to me, the Professor Hulk in the comic books was more like studious.
Like Beast.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, more like Beast from X-Men, you know, like that kind of thing, you know. And
I felt more like it was all Bruce Banner except for he got the big
Physical.
and green.
Right.
Exactly. There was no compromise there. He's like, well, I'll let you be big and green, but I'm everything else.
Right. And
There's no middle ground.
Right, and I felt like there needs, if you're going to be Hulk, there's still got to be some of that rage.
Exactly. He's like, ugh.
I
Like
didn't-
bang. I was like, I didn't find that funny at all.
I didn't get that part at all. Like, why was Captain telling him, "Oh yeah, and go smash a few things while you're at it" or something? Like, is he supposed to act like he's?
The other Hulk, so he's not standing out.
But the other Hulk is much bigger than he is, and he just ran that way. So why you? I just didn't get it. I don't know if I missed something or.
Yeah, I think the whole point was they saw that the Hulk was there, and it was like, all right, you got to go out there and see. You got to go out on the street and go find what the ancient one, and everything. So you go pretend to be the Hulk, you know, because you're the Hulk. So if you're going to be out there as the Hulk, you got to be like that time of Hulk. You know what I mean? Otherwise, people are going to be like, holy shit, there's 2 Hulks or whatever.
I see.
So I get that, but yeah, I was just like, when he's like, oh, I think it's gratuitous, but whatever. And I was like, come on, man. Like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Some people loved it. I saw some people were like,
Yeah,
oh, they
I
thought it
had
was
some
great.
coworkers that absolutely loved that part. And like, ugh.
They loved the
Ugh.
Hulk thing. I just thought it could have been better.
Yeah, exactly.
I
expected more. There we go. 2 things.
Right. Now, Vito, what about you? I know aside from like the humor stuff, was there any stuff that you felt was kind of a letdown?
Letdown, no, but I didn't. The whole Ronin thing with Hawkeye.
Right.
I don't know the backstory to Ronin. I didn't even know that was a thing, so
Right.
I didn't know why that had to be in there. Like, I understand why he would have done that to avenge because his family died, but it
It's
didn't
like
like
one
do
extreme
anything.
to another.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Well,
I didn't think it really set up anything.
Well, it didn't, and that I'm going to agree with you on that. So the Ronin thing, yeah, the whole point of that, the way they utilized it, obviously in the movie, was that he couldn't cope with his family dying, and what he really couldn't cope with was the idea that there were all these villains. Essentially, there were all these, you know, Mexican mafia, Japanese yakuza, all these like killers, you know, horrible people out there that they got to live, but his family had to die.
Yeah,
And that's what that yakuza boss was saying to him. We didn't do anything to you. And Ronan said, well, it's the fact that my family, other innocent people died, but you got to live, and you're a fucking evil criminal. It's like, nope. So it's kind of like Ronan was doing more of his own
Thanos thing, right?
balancing out
Yeah.
the scales, going, nope, if innocent people had to disappear, then you don't get to be here because you're evil. You know, you're a criminal. So he just went, he went total rogue. That I thought was fucking great. Like, I love that. I love that concept. I love the concept that Natasha was kind of keeping her distance, but like keeping an eye on what he was doing that whole time, and just like heartbroken, knowing that Clint was just off his rocker and wanting so bad to like help him or stop him or give him some, you know what I mean? And just knowing that like
Nothing she could do.
There's
would
nothing
help.
she could do about it. And then not until she got presented with that's why she said to him, like, I'm sorry I didn't give you hope sooner,
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Jeremy Renner is fucking awesome as Hawkeye. Love the character. Loved the whole idea of the Ronin thing. I really wish they would have done more with it.
He always
Right.
gets the short end of the stick in these movies. To
Yeah.
me. I mean, he's such a cool character.
I know.
He was my favorite guy to play in the Avengers stand-up arcade game back in the 90s, right? But
Yeah, and I mean, for a long time, Hawkeye was the leader of his own Avengers team, man. He was leader
Was
of
he?
West Coast Avengers, man.
fucking West Coast.
West Coast Avengers, man. That comic came out in 1984. I've got
Was
it.
he wearing the purple?
Fuck yeah, he was. Classic Hawkeye outfit. And that was my man. I bought West Coast Avengers off the racks when it came out.
Mm.
I love that comic series. So, and Hawkeye was one of my all-time favorite Avengers. When I was a kid, Hawkeye, dude, like way more than Captain America or anything. I loved Hawkeye. So anyway, yeah, I really, but especially in the because the Ronin thing is the thing in the comics too.
Okay.
I really hoped they were going to do more with that, and it ended up just being like a little transitional thing to be like, well, what's he been up to? It's like, man, they could have done so much more. I mean, it's a minor complaint in the grand scheme of things, but they should have done more with that.
And then one other thing is him and Natasha. Like, was there a history between them that I missed? I always thought it was the Hulk and Natasha.
Okay, no, there's romantic history only between Hulk and Natasha.
Right.
No, the whole thing between them is that she used to be a Russian assassin. He was sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. to kill her.
Okay.
It was his mission that he was supposed to take her out. And we don't know the rest of the story because I'm sure they're going to tell it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But he went off
Mission.
off the plan. He made a judgment call for whatever reason to spare her. And he spared her life. He spared her, all this kind of stuff. And then obviously helped to further train her and integrate her into S.H.I.E.L.D. Obviously somehow talked Nick Fury and them into accepting her instead of eliminating her. So that's the whole thing, is they were like, it was like the whole classic kind of like partners, like cop partners, war buddies kind of thing. It's like, but he felt very responsible for her. So that's why, like, especially her dying the way she did when she sacrificed herself for him, not allowing him to make the sacrifice. Like, that's why, like, tremendous guilt there on his part.
I see. Okay.
Which again, I mean, I guess that's projected, but it's almost too bad that they didn't at some point have more of a chance to tell a little more of that backstory,
Mm-hmm.
so that when she did do that, you'd get even more of a sense of like, damn,
They should have
Yeah.
done that when she found him in Japan or something. Spent 5 minutes.
to show that
Right.
backstory or
Mhm.
something. Yeah, they've had opportunities. They're gonna supposedly they're still planning on doing this Black Widow movie, even though she sacrificed herself for the stone. How'd you guys feel about that whole thing, about the whole Black Widow thing?
It was pretty much a shocker the first
Yeah.
time I saw it.
Well, yeah, it's not going to shock you the
Yeah.
second time.
Yeah. I don't know. It kind of came out of left field, to be honest with you, because I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I knew something was going to happen. Obviously,
Right.
he had to get the Soul Stone, but I thought Hawkeye was going to die
Right.
just because Natasha's a much more important character than Hawkeye is.
Or maybe that said
know?
they'd figure some other
Yeah, I guess.
scheme out. They could pull something else out of their hat that they were going to do in order to get that Soul Stone. Yeah, that was the one thing that took me by surprise. I didn't know that was going to happen. I was like, oh,
Really?
yeah.
You didn't spoil that part for you?
No.
Really? Okay.
No, because it wasn't in the spoilers that I read.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, that part wasn't in there, so I was like, oh, okay. I feel like Natasha is kind of, everybody's going to think of Tony Stark as being like the great hero of this movie because he made that ultimate sacrifice. And in so many respects, I guess he is. He's the one that helped figure out time travel and all that other kind of shit. But to me, the real hero, the real just, the person who really gave it all and was just true blue from beginning to end was Black Widow. That is, to me, the hero of this story. Because Black Widow...
She held it all together for how long?
Right. She was, you know,
It was
like...
by a thread, but she still held it all together.
Mhm.
She's like the one Avenger that always kept her...
Actual hero?
Yeah, kept it together. And she had no superpowers. She has no extraordinary powers other than being extremely skilled and smart and all this and witty and all this stuff. She always kept it together, and she's the one that had nothing to gain because everybody else pretty much had something to gain. Like if Tony brought people back, then Spider-Man would come back, you know, if, so on and so forth. Everybody there had some kind of like thing to gain from it. I would say, you know, they had and I feel like Natasha just simply was like, somebody has to do, like, I have to, you know, Tony walked away. He walked away from the fucking Avengers. He walked away from all that. I mean, Cap was even kind of half out the door. That's what he was like, maybe we should just close up shop. Maybe we're done with this. I'm just going to go do AA meetings anymore, you know, and all this kind of stuff like he was doing. And you know, everybody else was kind of like, whatever, you know. Captain Marvel's like, hey, look, I got to go look at the rest of the universe. And
Gotta get a new haircut.
you got to get a new haircut. Yeah, all that kind
Talk
of
to
stuff.
the manager.
But Natasha just unwavered, and she didn't even think twice when it came down to, well, she's going to have to give her life to, it was just like, yep, I'm doing this. There was no like, man, I can't believe I have to do this. It was just like, nope, I'm doing it. You know, she did it willingly, almost with a smile on her face. Like, again, and it's like, to me, and none of the rest of the movie would have happened the way it did if she didn't make that sacrifice, because it was the only way to get that stone. There were all sorts of other confangled ways to get the rest of the stones, as we proved, because they screwed up in New York.
Yeah.
But that was the only way to get that stone. So I don't know, man. To me, like, she is the great hero of this whole story. It's just, I don't know. And I don't feel like I see enough people saying that when I see like stuff, reviews and things I've seen about it. You know, people acknowledge, oh, she made a sacrifice, but they talk about, you know, Tony Stark and and Captain America. And I'm like, man, you know, they all had something to fucking gain from this and everything. It's like, I mean, yeah, okay, I get it that Stark died, but still, I don't know.
So did she.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah.
It was the only way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Stark couldn't have done that without her sacrifice.
Yeah. So, Meg, let's get to your, because this is probably going to mainly take up most of the time. What's your biggest beef then with this movie?
I think my biggest beef is Captain America.
Okay.
And his ending. Because I feel like Tony Stark always said, like, he can't be that good. He's got to be selfish or whatever it is. There's no way he could be that good. It's all just an act or whatever like that. And then he basically just proved Tony right. I mean, I get, like you were saying earlier, that they kind of switched roles where Tony ended up being the selfless one and saved everybody at the cost of his own life. And then Captain did Tony's thing and kind of did something selfish for himself.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like they could have still had the same results, but for a different reason. Like if they sent Captain, somebody had to go back, but it's like a one-way trip back. Like nobody could come back. Then Captain said, okay, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm going back. And then he could go back and live his life and everything. It still creates another timeline.
Or like say if Cap would have gone back like with one of the other guys, like Ant-Man or something like that, and something happened to one of the time travel wristbands.
Yes.
So
There you
only
go.
one of them could come
back.
back, and Cap was like, this is my time. This isn't your time. You've got a daughter, you've got a family. Take it, go. I'll stuck it. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that until just this moment.
That's a good point.
That would have been
more true to his character
Right.
and what we knew and loved about Captain America. He's true. He's by the book. He's selfless.
But why don't you explain why you have such a problem with him, why you think it's so selfish. Because people might be like, well, so what if he went back in time? You know, I don't blame him. He wants to go back in time and be...
Because the Ancient One specifically told them, I'm only giving you this stone, so you guys can do this, but you have to bring it back exactly each one where you got them, because you're going to create these extra timelines.
And get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah, and it's going to fuck everybody else over. You cannot do that. You have to bring it directly back to where you got it. And so he does all that, and he's like, you know what? I miss my girl. I'm just going to go back and create this other fucking timeline anyway for himself.
Right.
And I just find that very selfish for Captain America. I mean, if what you told me, like Iron Man or somebody else did that, okay, it's more in their character, but not Captain America.
Yeah, they kind of set up his drifting apart though throughout the movie, because even when they went back to the headquarters, he was kind of like, yeah. Yeah,
I know he was like when he saw her and stuff, he missed her and everything, but it's part of Captain America. He's not going to sacrifice himself. Or he will sacrifice himself for everything else, for his happiness and everything, to make sure everybody else is good. Yeah. And that was very selfish of him to go back just to have his dance and live his life with
Peggy.
Yeah.
Well, but maybe part of the point is that he felt like maybe he, I mean, look, like I told you before, there's no way around it. There's no way to make it like he wasn't being selfish. It was exactly what it was. He basically says it. He says it to, said it to Sam or whatever, that I was thinking that I would go back and get some of that life that Iron Man had told me to get for myself and everything. I mean, he said it in not so specific words of, I decided to be selfish and go get my own, go get a life. Maybe it's just at that point Cap was like, you know what? Jesus Christ, I've been through so much, you know what I mean? Like, I've just given so much and I saved this world. Like, literally, I'll just save this world. Like, yeah, it's selfish. Yeah, it's probably not technically the right thing to do, scientifically or ethically or whatever, the right thing to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, I can understand you having a problem with that. I get it.
Yeah. Again, my biggest problem is like not coming back for everybody else or whatever is his timeline. But the whole point, the Ancient One said, you cannot fuck with these other timelines, create these new timelines. And I know they already created other ones.
We'll get into that in a second. Yeah.
But for him to purposely do that, knowing it's going to fuck over a whole different world of people, I can't get over it.
Well, but here's the problem.
When they could have done it in a different way.
Well, here's the thing, though. How do we know that it fucked over a whole other world? We don't know. Uh-oh, something's going... Bzz, bzz, bzz.
Yeah, what is that?
It could just be like interference from
Maybe.
like a phone or something. Anyway, you probably won't even hear it. Anyway,
I'll just cut that out.
It's the loudest thing in the mix.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Loki. But we don't know what... I mean, you got to remember that this is still the Cap that has complete knowledge of everything. So Cap knows about Arnim Zola and Hydra. So he can fucking nip that in the bud right away. Cap knows about the importance of the Infinity Stones. Not only that, but where they're located. He knows about the importance of the Pym particles and what all that means. Like, Cap knows enough stuff that he could... Is he going to change the timeline? Yes, he is. Him just being there is going to change the timeline drastically, especially considering who he is. Because he's not just some rando dude, you know what I mean? But maybe his thing is like, well, I'm going to fuck up this timeline. I'm going to create my own, the Steve Rogers, multiverse world. But I can try to at least steer it in the right way so that maybe it'll help some things. Now, as we know from reading 11/22/63, that doesn't always go the way you hoped it would.
Right.
You go and you save Kennedy from being assassinated, and then you end up with a nuclear war.
Yeah.
Because all these other things happen as a result that, because blah, blah, blah wasn't in office and all this other shit. So, maybe his thing is like, well, I'm going to fuck up this timeline. I'm going to create my own, the Steve Rogers, multiverse world. yeah, any way you slice it, Meg, you're right. It was a selfish thing to do. It was out of character. I don't necessarily personally have a problem with him doing something out of character, because after how many movies of him being in character, the thought of everything he just went through changing his character a bit is not unheard of. It may not be what you want to have happen to the character, but it's somewhat believable, I guess, in that regard.
I guess, but
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm not trying to discredit your opinion, because ultimately I kind of think you're right. I think that, yeah, that's out of character for him, and it's pretty fucking risky. A whole universe just got changed because of you wanting to be with
just
this
on
chick.
a whim. I was like, oh, you know what? I just thought I'd keep going. Like,
Well,
what?
And that was
Well,
one-
I guess it wasn't on a whim, but
Yeah. But that was one of the things that I took umbrage with was, and I've kind of come to understand it a little bit better now, was the whole idea that, I guess my biggest concern with this story, and I have a feeling we're going to delve into this in future movies, which is good, was the whole idea of this whole story is based on, should we bring back, we have the means to possibly bring back, I mean, not even billions, because, I mean, just on our planet we had billions, but they brought back everybody in the universe, if
Yeah.
I understood correctly.
Mm-hmm.
They undid the original snap. So they brought back probably quintillions of or more life across the universe, which is, in theory, you go, well, that's great. Of course, these people didn't deserve to die. You want to bring them back. Okay. But
it's been 5 years.
you brought them back 5 years later. A lot has happened in that time. You're talking about,
It's like that TV show, The 4400.
yeah, right. It really is. I mean, you're bringing them back, and then it's like, there are people that in those 5 years probably had loved ones that moved on or killed themselves or died or
Had babies
or whatever, all these things. And now suddenly they're all brought back to modern times 5 years later. And it's supposed to just be like, oh, they're back. Great. It's like, no, man, think about that. Think about the ramifications of that and what that could mean to life. Because I don't agree at all. I hate Thanos. Thanos was a fucking maniac. Fuck that ball-faced motherfucker. I don't like Thanos. But the one thing that is true is, like it or not, is that in many worlds and many places, the overabundance of life on planets causes famine. It causes, overpopulation, all this kind of stuff. Now, his solution to it was not the right solution. But it still was a fact that is true, that there is overpopulation, there's famine and all this stuff because of it. Now, you've brought back all these people to a planet that have that many more people brought in because, like I said, during that time, people had to now keep procreating and stuff. And part of what keeps us somewhat in balance is the give and take. Babies are born every day, people die every day. Now you just brought back I guess it would have been like 4 billion people to the planet who had been gone.
And for the last 5 years, production and manufacturing of a lot of things you need to live has been drastically cut down. So now you're in even a worse position.
Exactly. Jobs were moved on or closed down.
Except for the Audi plant. They were still making those sweet-ass cars.
Yeah, that was a sweet-ass car. But do you understand my point? It's like there's, after I watched it, especially the second time after I watched it, so I didn't think about it as much the first time, but the second time after I watched it, I walked away and I went, I don't know if I actually agree with the premise of this movie. I don't know if I think they should have brought everybody back. And if they did, then they should have at the very least been brought back earlier than they were. Now, here's a problem, because I could think Megan.
Yeah, you can't. That's the whole point of them coming back 5 years later. Because again, they can't fuck with the timeline.
Yeah.
You can't change the past. If they would have said, okay, Hulk, snap your fingers, and you're going to bring everybody back to 24 hours after the snap happened. The problem is, could he have done
or
that?
3 seconds after the snap
Or 3
whatever.
seconds. He could have done that. The problem with that is, as soon as he did that, what would have happened is that would have created a new timeline. That would have been a new universe in the multiverse. It wouldn't have actually fixed this. And that's why Tony wouldn't do it, because he was going, well, it doesn't work that way. And I don't want to go live in another universe where I don't have my kid and I don't have the last 5 years and everything I did. You know what I mean? So I get it.
But he would, because there'd be
Well, that's
yeah,
I don't know. That's
a whole
what I'm
mess.
saying.
But the whole point of the movie was not to create new universes, and they fucked it up big time.
Yeah, once again, did not keep quoting it, but quote fucking Tim and Eric, man. It's like, well, you blew it. You fucked it up.
You're always going to blow it in time travel stories, man. There's no way to keep
you don't
that.
mess with time.
You don't. Even though it's an amazing concept and we think we would want to do it, at the end of the day, man, you're going to fuck everything up.
Right.
You know, there's so many variables that you don't even think about that will happen that will change something. You know,
right. And that's because they that's what I was, and that's another thing is, and I guess maybe another reason why maybe I'm a little more forgiving of the Steve Rogers timeline thing is, even before he made that choice, god damn, they fucked up all sorts of timelines. Go ahead.
Yes, but they didn't really know they fucked up like the Loki timeline. They didn't know anything about that.
No, but it doesn't matter. I'm just
and that
saying.
doesn't make it any better anyway, because he knows he can't fuck up the timeline.
And-
so it's like, well, we already fucked up 2 timelines. Let's just go do some more. Why
Iron
not?
Man even warned them. He's like, what if you go back and change the stones, but you fuck it up even worse than Thanos did? You know?
Right.
That's exactly what they did.
Right, but I'm not saying that anything excuses Steve. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it excuses him. I'm just saying, me personally, the reason I'm sort of like, oh, well, yeah, okay, that's fucked up, but whatever, is because they had already fucked up all sorts of other timelines. They shouldn't have done any of them. They shouldn't have fucked up any of them. Because think about it. So the Ancient One specifically says, she's emphasizing that she needs that time stone back to use to protect that timeline. Great, I get it. But by letting Loki get away and all that stuff they did, with him getting away with the cube and all that stuff, they changed that timeline anyway. So in that timeline, the Ancient One had to eventually be like, oh, great, thanks, assholes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for bringing the stone back, but guess what? You let Loki get away with the cube, the cosmic cube, which he didn't have originally in this timeline. You blew it. So there was that one. Then there was the 2014 timeline, because Thanos and all his people come from 2014 to our time in 2023 and end up getting killed. So in that timeline, that original 2014 timeline, Thanos and them disappeared. They were gone. They went through. That was it. That was the end of them. So that's a timeline that got all screwed up because they're gone. Gamora's gone. All of them's gone. So that changed everything drastically. What this has done is opened up a slew of possibilities now for Marvel.
Yeah, nobody's really dead. Everybody's still a possibility with none of these other timelines.
Because they're just in another multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody's irreplaceable. They're dead. Sure. People are dead in their timeline. If you're dead, you're dead. But
in that timeline, not other timelines.
But now somebody from another timeline can come through. Because what? So have you guys seen the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer yet?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I purposely stay away from these trailers because I want to go in fresh.
Well,
from what you were saying,
I'll give you a little bit, because you're going to need to know for this discussion. I won't tell you much about it, but what ends up happening is Nick Fury and them reveal that they believe that the snaps, because there were 3 freaking snaps. You think about it here. There was Thanos snap, Hulk snap, and Tony snap. That all those snaps, again, 11/22/63 style, caused tears in time, so that it created, like the sort of like the walls. It's like fabric wearing thin, or getting little tears. It's like the walls between the different multiverses started to thin out because doing that. And the more you do that, the more it's thinning it out. Again, that's that whole theory that's how that works. That's what King talks about in that book.
It's in Fringe. It's in
Doctor
Doctor Who.
Doctor
Come
Who.
on, people.
Yep. Yeah. The crack in the wall
Mhm.
in Amy Pond's bedroom. Which how ironic is that whole story about the all the time travel and all that stuff causing the tears in the fabric of the universe then, and it all originates with the crack in Amy Pond's room.
Yep.
And Amy Pond is played by Karen Gillan, who plays Nebula in fucking Avengers.
So she knows. I mean, come on.
So it's all about, it all comes back to motherfucking Doctor Who, because Doctor Who is the mad note. You know, one of the things, excuse me, I'm tired. One of the things they're going to address in the next movie and probably subsequent movies are these, like, what's it like, everybody dealing with these people all of a sudden coming back? What's the world like? What's the, you know, how, you know, it's not, is it going to be just la-di-da, they're all back? I get the impression it's not. And I hope it's not. So I'm kind of reserving my end criticism or judgment on this part of the story for the future, because it's going to depend on where they go with it. If they make it kind of like, oh, it was la-di-da and everybody integrated back more or less great, it's like, then that's bullshit. I'm sorry. That does change my feelings a little bit about this story and this movie. But otherwise, I think, you know,
There's still hope.
there's still hope. I mean, but yeah, I mean, this opens up all sorts of possibilities now with multiverses and stuff. It's how they can introduce other characters that haven't been there all the time. It's like, where's the Fantastic Four been?
Where's the X-Men been?
Where's the X-Men been? How come there's no presence that we know of real mutants? Now, we've had people who've been mutated, like Scarlet Witch, like her brother Quicksilver, who were part of the fucking old X-Men stories, that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? In fact, Quicksilver's even in the X-Men movies.
Right.
There's 2 Quicksilvers out there in movies, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. There was our Quicksilver who died in Age of Ultron, but then there's Quicksilver that's played in the the X-Men movies by Evan Peters from American Horror Story.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? The young guy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Who's great. He's great.
Yeah, he's a
Those
great
scenes
actor.
with him in the X-Men
Dude.
movies are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So damn
he's
good.
he's awesome. He's like one of the best characters. So, because one thing that I felt after this movie going forward is I am looking forward to another Doctor Strange. I'm looking forward to another Ant-Man movie. I'm looking forward to all that stuff. But in terms of like, what's going to be the big epic storyline, Marvel Cinematic Universe, Avengers type storyline, I'm sort of like, I don't know, man, because how are you going to top this? You know, what? Well, the world is at stake. It's like, oh, well, fuck, we've been there, man. Been through that. You know, we literally, you know, I mean, I don't know. You know, there's characters, again, I know you guys aren't that familiar with them, but like Galactus, you know, who's a world eater and all this stuff. And like, I mean, yeah, that could be cool. They could do that. There's other stories like Secret Wars where I can't even get into explaining all that, but there's this guy, the Beyonder, who ends up basically stealing the heroes from like our universe. He like zaps them, they disappear, and it's because he brings them and the villains to like this other dimension, this other planet, and he's got this whole, it's really complicated to explain, but they have to kind of battle and then kind of work together ultimately. So it's like some of the villains and the good guys have to sort of team up together, and they don't want to team up together because they don't. So it's a great story and everything. But it's a little bit similar in ways to the Gauntlet story. So I don't know. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, didn't the Russo brothers say they would continue on if they're allowed to do the Secret Wars?
Fuck yes, they did.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Russos said they wanted to take a break after this because they've done it. It was so epic. They're like, we've got other projects we want to do. And they were asked, well, what would bring you back to Marvel? And they said, if they came back and said they want to do Secret Wars, we'd do it. And I'm like, oh, baby. Because again, just like West Coast Avengers, man, Secret Wars 1984, man, that was like the height of when I really got into collecting comics when I was in junior high. Like, it's such a good story and it's classics. There's so much stuff they can introduce because Secret Wars is when Spider-Man gets his symbiote suit.
Really?
which ended up turning into Venom.
Mm.
So they could bring that in. I know they already did a Venom movie, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really have anything to do with Spider-Man. So they could have Spider-Man get his fucking symbiote suit. There's so much cool shit they can do with that. So much. Yeah, dude. It could be... Secret Wars could be amazing, but they would have to rewrite it and figure out a way to make it different enough so you don't just feel like, well, this is Infinity War 2, you know?
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
Let's talk about what we loved. Like, what's the stuff that we really loved about this movie? Megan's already making faces like, ugh. Oh, come on. You had to have some stuff you loved in this movie. Well, you and
Let me think about it.
I have done a lot of talking. Vito is the one who's really big on this. So like Vito, name, what would you say are like the top things of this movie that are just unbeatable?
The whole time travel story, because I'm a sucker for time travel stories. I love the scenes where they kind of reenact scenes from the previous movies, but they're done in a different way.
Absolutely.
Captain America going into the elevator.
One of the best scenes.
I was like, this is fucking cool. And I knew, no, they're not going to get into a fight because that doesn't happen yet. That's another 5 years or whatever way. But the way he handled that situation, I was like, damn, dude, that's fucking awesome.
I love that they made it. It's funny because it's not it's not the same, because obviously, the scene that happens that they reference in Winter Soldier happens later. That comes after the Battle of New York and all this stuff. So it wasn't like they went back to that time, but I just love the fact that they referenced it, that here he is, here's Cap going to get into an elevator and he sees all the same motherfuckers that changed because that moment changed everything for Cap. Because that's when he realized, like, oh my God, my own government, are against me and trying to kill me. Like, that changed everything. So that moment of Cap, like when those doors open and he sees Rumlow and
is it Pierce?
Not Pierce was the senator. He came later, but Jasper Sitwell and all them.
Yeah.
And he sees all them, and it's just like, holy shit, I've seen this before. I had such a boner for that part because I love Winter Soldier. That scene in Winter Soldier is so amazing. So I was just like, no way, that's great. And then him just fucking with him with the whole Hail Hydra thing. Yeah, I agree. I love that. I love when he fights himself.
Yep, that's
He's
America's
like,
ass.
That is America's ass. Yeah,
I could do this all day. I know.
that was great. Yeah, I could do this all day. I know. Like, just that moment when you have that realization of, like, Jesus Christ. And what was cool about that scene between him fighting himself was it showed the character development that had happened. Because Captain America of 2023 was not the Captain America of 2012. In 2012, he was still that
Mr. America.
Yeah, he was Mr. Avenger guy. Like, I'm fighting for the good. And,
Truth, justice, the American way. Oh, wait, that's a different character.
Yeah,
but you get the idea.
Right. So it was really cool to see that development, to show, for them to like bring that to the fore. I loved that. I agree. I love that. I loved the Ancient One scene. I loved her explaining, because I just think that's a great character. I love the Doctor Strange movie. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, all the time travel stuff. I loved when they went back to 1970. Seeing Tony's father,
that was
Howard.
Cool. Yeah,
I liked that, and I love what's his face, the actor that plays him, because he's from Mad Men. That's John Slattery. That's his name. Yeah. What else? What else was cool?
The ending, the time travel ending, where they're like, "What? He didn't show up. He's late or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, wait a minute."
Yeah.
Then they walk over. He's old. I love when time travel movies do that because it makes you just think like, fuck, what happened all these years? And they don't tell you, so your imagination has to fill in those gaps, you know? That's
Right.
really awesome.
Megan does not agree.
I know she doesn't.
Oh man, yeah. Well, I mean, you know,
I
yeah.
agree that it's a cool concept. I just don't like the character they used to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
But see, I did because I loved.
It's like Scorpion King 5 all over again.
Oh
here.
my God.
Oh no,
Dude.
Let's not go down that road. I loved that. Because again, you know, my favorite characters are if I had to pick my favorite heroes, it'd be really hard. But let's just say I'm super fucking excited that Disney's doing a show about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
That is awesome.
Because I liked Winter Soldier a lot. When I saw, because again, I love Winter Soldier, the movie. And I loved at the end of the twist they had that I was like, oh shit, Bucky's like, he's going to come back. Like he might be a good hero like he is in the comics, you know, because he ends up being like a hero.
Yeah.
And then the way they set that up in Civil War. And I loved when Sam and Steve go and find Bucky. And then the three of them are kind of on the lam and they're trying to protect. And that dichotomy there of Captain America, Falcon, and Winter Soldier. Like I was like, man, that's another reason why Civil War didn't make just outside my top 5 because I wanted more of that. I was like, no, don't end that already. I want more. Like this could be amazing. These three fucking fighting together. Like so awesome, you know, essentially these 3 soldiers, you know, that are on the lam, you know, from their own government. Oh, so good. And so I loved that ending. I love the whole idea of him passing the shield, the baton, passing the shield on to Sam, and that Sam is basically going to be the new. I don't think he's going to be Captain America. He's still going to be Falcon, but he's going to be like a Captain America-ized Falcon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I love that concept because I think he's a great character and he's
such a badass dude.
He
doesn't
badass.
Get like I don't think the recognition or enough screen time to justify that.
And he's like a good dude. Like he's not an asshole. He's smart. He's like even keeled. He's a true soldier. You know, he doesn't even have superpowers. He's just, you know, so he doesn't even have that to fall back on. He's just a guy that'll put his ass on the line like a true soldier. Love it. And then the great part is he's got Bucky, who is a super soldier, to kind of be his muscle, like his right-hand man. It's like, well, if there's something I can't do, this motherfucker can do it. So it's like, oh man, if they do that right, do you know how fucking disappointed I'm going to be if this show sucks, man? I'm going to be so bummed because I'm already like chomping at the bit. But I loved the whole thing with. Because like I said, I right away, I was like, wait a minute. Even before, when he's talking to Bucky and they're quoting the lines from the first Avenger of, you know, don't do anything stupid. No, you're taking all the stupid with you. And that's that's when Bucky goes off to war. Yeah. And Steve's still all scrawny. And they switch the lines. I was like, okay, that's cool. Yeah. But then when he says, I'm going to miss you, Cap. And it's like, well, wait a minute. He's only going to be gone 5 seconds. Why are you being so maudlin about it? And then when they're like, wait a minute, where is he? And then Bucky turns around. He's got that look on his face like, he did it. Like, and it's like, oh shit, what does he know? And the Russos have come forward now and said, yeah, Cap told Bucky beforehand. It wasn't, you know, in the script, but as far as we know, like it was that Bucky knew and everything. And that's why they were like, yeah, that's why he says going to miss you. And he knew and all that kind of stuff. And whether or not he knew that he was going to hand over the shield to Sam or not, they didn't confirm, but I think he kind of knew. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think he knows that Sam's the one that deserves the shield because Bucky, even though he's like a good dude, he's
so fucked up. Like
damaged.
He might, do a Manchurian Candidate again. You never know.
He's damaged. He knows that he's probably like, I'm 100 years old, man. Like I'm damaged. I've had, I can't. plus the public knows that I was a villain once.
Yeah.
They know, you know, they were the government will never believe in me like that, but they can get behind Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Captain America needs to be somebody that the people and everybody will get behind, and they can get behind Sam. So
Yeah.
love that. I love that aspect of it. Anything else off the top of your head?
Speaking of Sam, when he comes in, and I don't know what that alien guy was, but Sam comes in with his fucking.
He stabs him with the
Oh
wings.
my god, dude, that was fucking awesome, man! It's like
Well-
seeing Wolverine go berserk for the first time and stab
Yeah.
that motherfucker in the chest, dude.
Well,
So good.
let's just address the ending. The
big fight
the
scene.
third act of this movie,
Yeah.
we'll call
God,
it.
how like insane! You couldn't even see what was going on screen. There were so many fucking people there. It was like a Lord of the Rings battle or something. You know?
Oh, there
It's
was.
ridiculous.
There were people in there that we didn't even notice.
Right.
Because did you know Howard the Duck was there?
I heard he was in there, but I didn't see him because I
Yeah.
wasn't really looking for him. But
Yeah, Howard the Duck was in there. There was a bunch. Yeah, like all the Ravagers were there from Guardians and stuff. Sean Gunn's character and stuff, and all that. Like there was tons that were supposed to be there. And yeah, you can't even. But that scene, to me, and like I said, I've watched it several times now. That scene to me is so masterfully done.
yeah.
So masterfully done. It's so good. I keep expecting every time I watch it to go, oh, is this gonna like wear off on me? You know, it doesn't wear off, man. It's still, and every time I watch it, it's exciting because there's so much going. There's like new little things I
You
catch.
catch.
And they're just quick cuts, so you got to like really pay attention to what's going on at all time. You got to watch it like 30 times, I think, to get every aspect.
Right.
Of
If that,
you
yeah.
know.
And I love the way everybody works together. Like I just love that everybody, you know,
All those
like
team ups that
Hawkeye's running with the gauntlet, and then Black Panther gets his moment. Give it to me, and they show him, and I'm like, oh, fucking badass. And then just when he's about to, then fucking Spider-Man gets in.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck yeah, it's badass.
Hey,
and
Peter
then
Parker.
and then all of a sudden, and then Valkyrie comes in and everything, and then all of a sudden, and then Captain Marvel, dude, I it's just fucking amazing. It's like it is up there. I mean,
Ant-Man punches that creature.
Ant-Man in
yeah.
that battle's great.
Yeah.
Oh, when he punches that
That flying
Chitauri
thing? Yeah.
creature, that is so badass, dude. Or when he steps on that thing, all that big foot comes down, boom. Yeah, well, and then that leads us to one last little moment that Meg's kind of like on the fence about, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Kind
think
of.
I think I know what she's talking about.
All right. My thing is, okay, in the battle and everything, like everybody had their moment, you know, everybody was fighting together and everything, and they had woman after woman after woman, you know, it showed them, and they were all battling it out and everything. It was awesome, amazing. I had to do my where they had all Captain Marvel got the gauntlet, and like, can you make it? And like, don't worry, she's got backup, and then it showed all the females. Dude, all the females coming in, and I don't know. I kind of had to cringe at first because like, oh no. But I guess I understand that there's like could be a hint at a all female team. I can't remember what it was called now, but something like that. So I was like, okay, but that's kind of cool if it's hinting at that. And they didn't harp on it for too long and shove it down our throats, so I was okay with it. But my initial knee jerk reaction was like, oh. Here we go.
Yeah, I think it was subtly done. They could have gone way more like in your face, like, "Hey, we're all chicks, chick power. Watch us go," and then do a slow mo of them for 5 seconds. Run, you know, and that would have
Right?
been
Yeah,
overkill.
but you know, immediately they split up and like Captain Marvel took off, and I was good again. And everybody was in action and everything like that. That part I love. The action part where the females are kicking ass and everything. They got their asses handed to them too, so it wasn't like they're the saviors and stuff like that. But again, I don't know. I just had that knee-jerk reaction. I feel bad for having that. I'm an
You're
awful
such a
person.
male chauvinist,
I
Megan.
know. I'm such a pig.
No, but I mean, here's the thing. Again, kind of like the other thing. I get it. I kind of agree with you. I understand. Here's the thing. Calling it what it is. Is it a corny, you know, making something stand out kind of corny, like, you know, somewhat eye-rolling scene in and of itself? Yeah, it is. But I think it is not because it's all females, but just because of the way what it is. I feel that same way when I see that same, which they reenacted again in this movie, that scene from the Battle of New York when all of a sudden they all back up in the circle and the camera's got to go around them with that epic music, and each one of them is striking.
Here's my weapon.
Here's my perfect. Here's my perfect pose. Here's my perfect pose. Here's my perfect. Like, and to me, some people go, yeah, and other people go, oh boy, like that's so gratuitous. The gratuitous shot, we'll call it. Is that scene a gratuitous shot? Absolutely. There's no way it isn't. You know what I mean?
But it's done in that timeline, so it makes sense. But if they did it in the future 2023, you'd be like, well, I don't know if that like works in this context.
But what I'm saying is all these movies have those gratuitous stand up and clap moments that they do like that like, you know, this is going to be somebody's wallpaper screensaver.
The first time we saw the movie, dude, I mean, when Spider-Man rolled in,
dude,
the whole crowd fucking erupted, man.
Yeah, and I mean, and that was done the way they shot it, and you know, it's like in the middle of this battle, all of a sudden he comes in, he pauses, and he's all like, and it's like, okay, dude, get to battle, all right? You know, like, we don't need you to pose. But so yes, it is exactly that. The thing is do I have a problem with the fact that it exists? No, I don't. And like I said, it's one of those things where the cynical adult in me, not even the male, because I love the female heroes. The cynical adult in me sees scenes like that and I go, oh, okay, you know, let's get back to it now. Okay. But like I said before, it's always those things that make me realize now that I'm like, but you know what? There's some 8 or 9-year-old somewhere that's going to see that scene and light up like a Christmas tree. And it's just going to be like, oh, my God, that's awesome.
Well, I mean, there's 48-year-olds too that want to see that shit too. So
well, no. You know. But yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying there's not, but I'm just saying.
Well, he's not that old.
Who, what? Well, anyway, I'm just saying there's, you know, the idea that to me, so there's certain things that I guess I'm saying that I think all of us who are a little bit more jaded and cynical, there's certain things that I think like, yeah, it's corny, it's gratuitous. Let it go. Because I know that, you know, a kid is going to see that. Some girl might see that. And it doesn't have to be a girl. Anybody could see that. But I'm just specifically right now. Some little girl could see that and go, holy shit, this universe is for me. Like, this universe is for me too. I started watching this because my big brother's like infatuated with this stuff and Iron Man and blah, blah, blah. And I saw, but you know what? This is badass. Look at all these heroes. And it just kind of makes you realize, because with the exception of the Captain Marvel movie, in the Marvel universe, there's been no emphasis on any of the female heroes. We got 3 fucking Iron Man movies and 3 Captain America movies and 2 Ant-Man movies and
3 Thor movies.
3 Thor movies, but we only got 1 fucking female hero movie. You know what I mean? So I love the fact that it showed like, hey, look, yeah, okay, there's all these great male heroes here, but look at these badass female heroes. Like, there's a shitload of them, and they're going to kick some ass. Like, I have no problem with, yes, the way they do it, the way it was done, it was so cornball. That I agree with you. And I get that you can't help but roll your eyes a little bit at it. I get it.
Well, I do have to admit, after my initial reaction, once they all came in and stuff like that, I was like, holy shit, there's a lot of female badasses in this movie. I didn't even it didn't even dawn on me. They were just all kicking ass and everything. They all come together. I was like, oh wow. I didn't even realize.
Because they're never all on screen at the same time.
Exactly.
Each main movie has like maybe one.
I feel you. I'm on board with you.
And that's why I'm like, I'll let it go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I agree with Vito. If they would have dragged it out and everything, it would have been like, oh, okay, come on.
Right.
And like you're trying to push
but
it
they
too.
didn't.
Yeah,
no, so I think it was
just
okay.
it was just I had a knee-jerk reaction to it.
Understandable.
Overall, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Especially once you put your spin on it and how the little girls can see it and everything like that and become, part of this world and make it part of their lives and stuff like that. I'm totally on board for it.
Yeah, well, here's an opposite thing. So you want to get really annoyed? I shouldn't even bring it up to like
boy.
bring attention to it. But apparently, there's like a group of people out there that did you hear about this? That they took Endgame, they got a copy of it or whatever, and they edited it. They edited it to delete any scenes that have Captain Marvel in it. Because they don't like her because she's this feminist bitch, blah blah blah, and they deleted anything in there that could be gay. So like the Joe Russo scene at the meeting when he's talking about going on the date, they deleted that because that doesn't belong in there.
Oh my
and
God.
they deleted any of the stuff that was overly like female power, like all this kind of stuff. So
Are you serious?
yeah, I'm serious. I was reading an article about it that somebody actually did that and distributed it out there for all the people, for all of you like us that don't want your kids seeing this
Freaking
garbage.
in Alabama or something? Goddamn.
Exactly. Don't even get me started.
We're not getting started on that.
Where's
bullshit.
Captain Marvel now? Because boy, but that's when I hear. See, it's then when I hear about that, and that's real. This isn't made up. This is real life shit. Then when I hear about that, I'm like, give me all the gratuitous female superhero fucking shit you can throw at us. Good.
Yes.
Shove it down these cockholes' fucking mouths, man, you know, because, oh, that's so obnoxious. So annoying. So, but anyway.
How excited were you guys when they were all in a line and Captain America goes, Avengers!
Assemble.
Well, because the thing is that's his line. If you don't know this from like the comic books, Avengers Assemble, that's his line. Like that's what he says in the comic
They've been
books.
holding it back from
And
everybody.
they've been holding it back all these movies, and everybody's like, and there's even another movie where he starts to say it and then he gets cut off. Or, yeah, it was the one when at the very end when he says Avengers, and then they cut it, and it's like, oh, how could you do? I think it's at the end of Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I think so. I heard about that.
He says
yeah.
Avengers, and everybody's like, he's going to say it, and they cut it. So the fact that he finally did that, and at the most epic battle, it's like, fuck yeah. Everything, I'm thinking about it right now is making my hair stand on end. Everything about that end battle is fucking beautiful.
How
So
about
good.
him wielding the hammer?
Dude, that
Turning around and
was...
showing almost like,
I thought that was badass,
That was
and I didn't
amazing.
understand it at all because I haven't seen Age of Ultron. And
Right.
They had explained, no, dude. There's a scene where they try to lift the hammer and stuff like
And
that.
he almost, he starts to move it,
I
and Thor's...
knew it!
Yeah. Yeah. I love and I love when the one scene when they're fighting and then Cap's got Storm Forger.
Bringer?
Yeah, Stormforger. No, Stormbringer is a Deep Purple album. Stormforger and then he's got Mjolnir and then Thor looks at him, he's like, No.
Yeah.
You take the little one. He's like, you can take the hammer. I got this, you know. I just like that kind of humor, that kind of stuff is
yes,
like that's
that I
great.
enjoyed.
There's a bunch of like hold like your breath gets out of your chest moments where like Thanos has the storm thing and he's gonna push it into Thor's chest.
Right.
You're like, holy fuck, dude, he's gonna fucking die right there. Fucking Cap's shield gets totally destroyed.
All right.
That
Yeah, I
was
thought
like-
that was the end of Cap.
Yeah,
there.
that was like holy
That was
shit.
on your
He
left.
broke the shield.
Well-
yeah.
Well, that's one of Larry's bitches.
Well, so let
Cue up
me.
Larry.
Yeah, we've gotten into you guys like
Larry even settled back in his chair because he knows he's gonna be here on a rant right now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep it
Everybody
short
settle
because
in.
I know we're already at like an hour and a half, but I guess that's the way this goes. You don't have to listen to it, folks. So here's the thing. I guess that's another one. It's probably my biggest beef about this movie.
Which, what part?
Well, I'll get to
Okay.
it.
He's working up to it.
Okay.
Here's
Let
the
it
thing.
let it build naturally.
What you were talking about, but like with the shield and all that. So here's the problem I have, and this is the one thing that has not changed with each watching of the movie. I don't like, speaking of eye-rolling movie tropes and cliches and stuff, I don't like it when they make a certain character, usually the villain, so completely invincible that it defies the logic they've set in that world, in that movie world, in that universe. And my thing is, at the very least, if you're going to make somebody that strong, be consistent about it, okay? Because here's the thing. In all throughout the movies, now, Thanos is strong. He's powerful.
Even
He's
without
strong.
the gauntlet.
Even without the gauntlet, he's pretty fucking strong, man. He's superhumanly strong, granted, and he's a super skilled amazing, brilliant warrior. Piece of shit, but brilliant. So even to the end of Infinity War, they're all fighting and Thanos is so strong. And at that point, he's got the gauntlet, only missing one stone. So he's exceptionally strong at this point. Here comes Thor. He all of a sudden shows up. Thor has Stormforger or whatever. Mm-hmm. And just about defeats Thanos. And the only reason he didn't defeat him is because he didn't go for the head. Or, even more importantly, should have cut his fucking arm off.
Yeah.
Well, in the heat of the battle, you don't think
he learned his lesson.
He did learn his lesson. But, so my point is so at that point, he almost all but killed Thanos. Because he's Thor. Like, he's super strong. He's got this incredible weapon. It's the kind of weapon that can kill demigods like Thanos, right? Now we go to the next movie. And we get to the battle at the end, which, like I said, love it. I say the battle's perfect. No. Okay, here's the one downside of the battle. So we get to the battle. Here's Thanos. He's a Thanos from 2014. So, okay, he's younger. He hasn't been through as much. He hasn't been injured as much and everything. So he's a little stronger. I get that. He has no stones. He doesn't have the stones. He has no stones. Okay.
He's got that double-bladed sword, though.
Oh, whoop-de-fucking-do. He can shave his balls and his face at the same time. Oh, wait, his balls are on his fucking face. Anyway, he's got this double sword. Now, he's fighting Thor, who has Stormforger. He's fighting Captain America, who has Mjolnir. He's fighting Iron Man. He gets Captain Marvel, who fucking alone is strong enough to bring down Thanos. Captain Marvel alone is strong enough to bring down Thanos. Not to mention all the other heroes. All this power. And they're just, nope, can't stop him. Can't bring him down. Even when it was just Cap, Thor, and Iron Man. And that's when the shield gets broken and everything. I'm like, oh, come on. I know you have to do this shit for the movie to build it up, but I'm like, you're making it. You're not even being consistent within your own storyline and your own storytelling.
Well, the one thing is they've been out of action for 5 years, though. So that kind of adds to it. I think that might have been what they were kind of going for.
I thought I saw somewhere that sword that he had was made out of some kind of special metal that allowed it to destroy that shield.
Yeah, I know. And I guess I can buy that, although that's a little convenient, but
and then at least with Captain Marvel, he had
yeah, they at least did that where he
point.
grabbed the one stone and put it in his other glove so that he could punch her.
Yeah.
And that's so I was like, all right, I can kind of buy that. And I understand because I know the writers said that one of the hardest tasks we had was bringing Captain Marvel into this battle because she's technically strong enough to do this shit like on her own. You know what I mean? So how do we make her not the one that just comes in and, fucking cleans house, So I get that there's a challenge there. I get you have to build suspense. I just felt like they made him a little too strong. It's like, come on. I get it. What else were they going to do? They had to drag it out. They had to make it epic. They had to build that drama. But it's just like, okay. Let me change my stance real quick. All right.
Okay.
I don't feel like they made him necessarily maybe then too strong for the final battle. They made him too weak previously. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They should have established than him being more unbeatable previously. Then I would have bought it more for that final battle. But they made it seem to me, at least, like what made him so difficult to beat previously was him having the stones and the gauntlet and everything. And they made him look more defeatable then. Yeah. You know what I mean? And except that he snapped his fingers, and then they fucked everything up. But in this one, he didn't have the stones. He wasn't technically that cosmically powerful, but he was harder to beat. It didn't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
Even in the same movie, like when they they go and kill Thanos.
Well, but
all
by,
it took was Captain Marvel to hold him down.
and I guess that the point there was supposed to be he was so
just,
weak, and
right.
he was so, and he had because he had destroyed the stones,
destroyed
and it had
him.
weakened him so much it
Yeah.
almost killed him.
All right.
So that part I could buy, like that I got, but I just felt like they made 2014 Thanos too strong for what he was supposed to be. I don't think it's like that's what that took me. It was just a bummer because it took me out of the moment of an otherwise absolutely incredible third act of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't know.
There was one point that Thanos brought up that I found pretty interesting, when he said that I now learned my lesson. I destroyed half the world, but that other half remembered what it was like and what they lost. So now I have to destroy everyone and start new. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Not the
no,
act of
no,
doing
I
that,
know.
but the philosophy
introducing
behind
that philosophy
Yes.
because it's true.
Because
yeah.
we see that today in wars. I mean, you
Absolutely.
go kill a village, that village remembers, they're going to come after you, and it's a never-ending cycle.
Right,
Mhm.
and they're never. You
This
can't.
is how the human race works.
Yeah.
That's how all races work. I think most. Well,
Not the Pleiadians, but the rest of them.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm talking in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm saying the other ones that they showed. I don't think there were any of them that necessarily felt any different. It was look at Gamora. Look
Right.
at how she, as long as she could, look how many years he spent 20 some odd years trying to convince her what I did was good for your planet. Your planet's prosperous now and nobody's hungry and it's blooming. It's great. But all she can remember is all the people that you slaughtered in order to get it to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And, so yeah, it's a great concept. I love that they made him finally, and hopefully enough people caught on to this. I love that they made him a proper bad guy. I love that they made a point of him saying, I've never done this for pleasure, but now what I'm going to do to you and your planet, I'm going to enjoy it. And everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that they made it like, don't.
He's not redeemable
He's-
anymore.
Yeah, he's not. He never was.
No, he wasn't, but some people made him that way.
No.
But he is no more.
Yeah, well, those people. Anyway, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we can go on and on forever about this
Yeah.
movie, and we've already been talking for an hour and a half. So, I think I really like the first act. So this movie's kind of in 3 acts,
Yeah.
I would say.
Mhm.
I really like the first act of the movie a lot. It's a lot of drama.
That opening scene is great, too.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
love
yes.
that. So good.
Yeah, I did enjoy that.
Oh, let me bring this up real quick too, because I want to say and then we'll get to the wrap up. Sorry, because I just remembered something. Just like I was talking about how I think Black Widow is the hero of this movie. If I had to pick out, say, who was the standout character, not necessarily my favorite or the best or whatever, but who was the standout character in this movie that the way it was acted, the way it was written, the character arc that I was the most like taken with. And every time I watch it, I feel even more Nebula.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Now I know it's harder for you, Vito,
Because I don't know
because you haven't seen the Guardians movies, so you don't. I mean, I know you got the gist of it from watching this because they showed old Nebula. But if you had been watching all the movies like I have, and you saw the way she's kind of changed and grown and everything, because she's different in Guardians 2 from Guardians 1, and then in Infinity War she's different from, you know what I mean? But especially this, like, because when I first saw Guardians 1, even though I love Karen Gillan, I thought Nebula was annoying. I mean, she served her purpose. She was, she served her purpose. I'm not saying she was badly done. The character was done fine, but I just was like, the character was like, oh, she's annoying. She's like a little annoying, like,
Gnat.
gnat.
In your ear.
It's like, oh, her again. Like, get her out of here. Let's get to the rest of the story. I don't care about her, Then in the second movie, they made more interesting stuff with her and the dynamic between her and Gamora and where they went, and then her kind of starting to show other sides of her and all this kind of stuff, and realizing that maybe she's not a flat out villain like I thought she was, and then so on with Infinity War, and not, that whole, every time I watch it, so I liked it when I first saw it, but now in the last couple times I've watched it, that whole opening scene with her and Tony,
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
and the way it's
Playing
narrated,
football.
Yeah, that's good.
and it was so brilliant because it was showing him. It's like Tony Stark is such a good reader of character. He's so good at figuring everybody out in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like he can look and go, "No, you're not exactly what you appear to be," and you've got some going for you. You know what I mean? Like Tony Stark in all these movies, he's always been a good character judge, and I think it was showed that it was like he caught on to like, oh, this girl's got issues. She's this, she's that, blah 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 blah. You know, and then that's like that whole point of him playing that game with her was teaching her like fair competition and blah blah blah. And he was clear. And he was like, "Oh, see, that was horrible." Now, and oh, you won. And it was clearly he let her win.
Right.
You know what I mean? He was doing that, and the way she was, and it was almost like training a child.
Yeah.
Right.
In a way, it was almost like training for being a parent. You know, and everything. Man, it was so well done. And then the way it was showing her. Even the same, like when he's sitting there and he's famished and he hands her the bag of food and she kind of like pushes it back to
They did
him.
such a good job with him as being all famished.
Oh, that was
great.
amazing.
It was like Martian level
Such
with
a-
Matt
Yeah.
Damon, you know?
And he played it so well.
Yeah, he did.
Even the way he talked and cared. Like,
Yeah, it was really good.
Such a good actor. I love that guy. But yeah, the whole way they showed her just in that, whatever that was, 5-10 minutes or whatever it was of the first part of the movie, they developed her character so well in that 10 minutes, and then ending with her coming out and sitting down and holding Rocket's hand.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like that never
No,
would have happened with her. And just real like,
they were trying to kill each other.
oh God. I mean, she just, you know, that woman's never shown, that character, Nebula's never shown any sign of tenderness, anything, any sign of that, and just showing that she had changed so much. And then by the end of the movie and the symbolism with her killing her former self and all that kind of stuff, and just so awesome. So awesome. I'm like, how did the fact that they took this character that I went from thinking was annoying like a gnat and being like, ugh, I'm sorry, Karen Gillan, I love you, but this character is just obnoxious. They just put her there to be obnoxious. And the fact that they took her from that to being a character that I fucking genuinely care about. And I'm like, I want to see more of her now. Like, I want to see her do this and that. Like, it's like,
All the more reason to be excited for Guardians 3.
Vito's like, oh no.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to make you watch those movies. You got to watch them at least once.
Yeah, the second one's on Netflix. I don't think the first one is, but
The second one's the best one.
yeah.
You could probably get away with not watching the first
think?
one.
Yeah,
if
you have
need
such a
to.
hard time with the first one.
Yeah.
Just go to the second one.
There's some great scenes in the first one. The whole prison scene when they all go to prison and they're fighting their way out of that prison, dude. That's a great scene when they first really meet each other.
I think I saw that part.
Yeah, you might have seen.
It's like a big tower in the center of this prison area. or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
I think I saw that part.
Yeah. That's a great scene. But yeah, the second movie you could probably stand to watch. Just don't get all the first scene with the dancing baby Groot. Just get over it.
That's amazing. I love Baby Groot dancing.
Just get over it. Just get past it because it's the only scene like that in the whole movie. The rest of it doesn't have anything to
No.
do with that stuff.
Don't like that.
There's no singing, dancing, or anything like that in the rest of the movie.
All right.
When the arrow's going through the ship and
Oh, dude, Yondu,
Yeah,
Michael
Yondu.
Rooker's
Oh my
character,
God.
dude. That's another example of a character that when he was in the first movie, I was
Mhm,
like,
like,
oh,
ugh.
he's
what
annoying.
a dick.
And then by the end of Guardians 2, you're like crying for him. You're like, he's like one of the best characters, and you're like, how did this happen? Like, dude, like, how did they do that? It's so good, so good. So anyway, what about you, real quick, and then we'll wrap up. What if you had to pick one character that you felt was like the best character of the movie for whatever reason, because of the development, because of what they did, whatever, how they acted it, whatever? Who would you pick? That's a tough one, I know.
I don't know. I think you nailed it with your pick.
With Nebula.
Right away, I want to just say Tony Stark, Iron Man, just because of the dynamic
Sure.
between his kid.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, guys, I cannot sacrifice this. I have to keep this going at all costs. And at the end of the movie, he's the one to give it all up to save everyone. I thought that was a great character.
Right.
Mm. How
Yeah.
cute was that kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morgan. Yeah.
Yeah.
They picked a perfect little girl to play
okay.
that. Yep. Cheeseburgers. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Again, I'll soften up that. Like I said, I had such a negative reaction towards Tony because I felt like initially like him saying, well, we'll do all this, but we can't. It's got to be now. It can't be 5 years ago. You know, I felt like that was extremely selfish. But now understanding the concept of time and that if we would have done it before, it really wouldn't have changed things. It wouldn't have changed our timeline. I guess I'm more forgiving of it. It still kind of felt a little selfish on Tony's part. I don't know.
But that fits his character.
It does. Yeah. And I don't get me wrong. I love his character. Like I said, I loved the whole thing of him getting to meet his father. I thought it was
great.
I thought it was acted well because he didn't get all like weepy and be like, Dad, you know, like I would have, you know what I mean? But I like the fact that he was more just like, oh, of course this is going to happen. Of course I'd get met with this. And just the fact that he got to actually tell his dad, I have a daughter and everything. And like that he was robbed of that. He never got to do that. It's like, that's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. And he hugged him.
Yeah. Which was funny with his hippie beard.
And the Jarvis introduction thing was cool,
Dude,
I thought.
That was cool. Yeah. Seeing Jarvis there. I'm like, fuck yeah. Man. Just so many. Yeah, we could talk for 3 hours. There's so many good scenes.
Make it as long as the movie.
Yeah.
No, we don't want. We're gonna. No, we'll wrap this up now. But yeah, okay. I mean, I can agree with the Tony Stark. You don't have a particular character that stood out for you, aside from Tony and Nebula.
Not that I could think of. Not that had a big arc in this one movie.
Right.
Well, I guess Nebula did in one movie, but.
Who's your
No.
favorite character from the Marvel Cinematic Universe? If you could pick one.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. I think he had a great. I mean, I think that is a good choice from this movie because I thought that he really think about who he was before, and then think about him and how important he was to this movie. Like he was so important that he brought the whole concept to them. They hadn't
He gave
even,
them the hope.
Yeah.
He gave them and everything, and just like, you know, I saw growth in that character as well in this movie. He wasn't
he was
the
just a
same
bumbling idiot.
exactly like he was in the other two. Like he had grown and everything. I also there's just so many. We could do an episode just about Easter eggs.
Oh God, yeah.
Because there's so many little things. Like it just made me think of him as I love the scene in the final battle when Hope's back as Wasp, and when Cap's like, you know, anybody can anybody get to that van, blah blah blah, and Hope's like, we're on it, Cap, and he like gives her that look, and I think a lot of people figure like they're looking at each other like, oh, they love each other. He gives her that look because in Ant-Man and the Wasp, she gives him so much shit for calling him Cap.
Yeah.
He's like, Cap? Who's Cap? And he's like, Captain America, okay? I fought a battle with him. You know, it's what we call him. And she's like, oh, God, you're so pathetic. And then here she is. And, you know, we're on it, Cap. And he looks at her like, uh-huh. Yep, see? And I like little things like that. Fucking love that. There's so many great little
All
Easter
the
eggs.
fanfare in it.
Lot of fan service in this movie. Absolutely. And just so many amazing iconic moments. Fucking Doctor Strange there holding him off and just putting that fucking one finger up, just being like, this is it.
This
like,
is the one, yeah.
Like, I can't tell you anymore. Just know this is I know what you're thinking right now, Tony. And
This is it.
this is it. Yes,
Yeah.
you're thinking that because I know what you're going to do if you know. Like, that's the kind of shit that gives me goosebumps. Like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, God, that's so heavy. You know,
Yeah.
like, so good. And yeah, I'm sorry, but I know, like I said, I know you don't like it, but the fucking end is awesome. The way they ended that movie with the dance. That's so awesome. How
Yeah,
can you
it was-
hate that?
No. All right. All right.
I know
So
you don't hate the dance.
I don't hate the dance. I'm very happy Cap got his freaking life that he wanted all this time.
I know.
You know how.
Was
You know.
asking a lot of the universe to give him that under those circumstances.
Right.
But just the way another, and I guess we can kind of wrap it up on this fittingly, is that one thing I loved about this movie was I loved that it began and ended completely unlike any other of the Marvel movies. I love that it began with the cold open with Hawkeye with his family.
Mhm.
There was no dun 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 dun. There was no. It was just the cold open,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh shit, we're
It's
already
totally
in it.
different.
We're in it.
No
vibe and
no
everything.
music, nothing, just silence, just being out there, and then again they still don't go. They use Dear Mr. Fantasy by Steve Winwood and Traffic,
Mhm.
which was like, oh wow, that's kind of heavy, because I know that song, I'm into that shit, and I was just like, wow. And I got the meaning right away because I know the words. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, it kind of fits it's about like Mr. Fantasy, like do something to take away all our grief and sorrow. Can you do some magical thing to make us forget all this sorrow? I was like, wow, that was a cool choice. And then ending, unlike any other movie, ending with that old timey 1940s movie, or music and them just dancing, and then it just ends on that note and they keep playing the music, and I'm like, wow,
Perfect.
yeah. Like one of the biggest action blockbusters of all time began and ended with such an untypical, you know what I mean? Like it was so fucking classy.
And you see movies where the ending of the movie has this totally different vibe, and you're like, why would you go with that ending? And this
Right.
one, you're like, you definitely had to go with that ending because that was
Fuck
fucking
yeah.
awesome.
And and Mig, because you never finished it, but Vito, I don't even know if you even thought about this. And you know what makes that ending even fucking better? Because it's the same way it ends, with Sadie dancing with what's his face at the end of 11/22/63,
does.
dancing to the old 1940s
Yeah,
song,
yeah.
them finally getting their last dance, and it's the same way that fucking book ends, and that book is the fucking bomb.
Drop it.
And it's one of the best endings of a book I've ever read, and they ganked that shit for the end of
Fuck
fucking
yeah.
Avengers Endgame. Boom, one. Done. Yep. I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome. Yeah. It didn't occur to me even the first time I saw it. It was later. I was like, wait a minute. This is the same way 11/22/63 ends, with Jake and Sadie dancing at the dance with the old music. And I'm like, motherfucker. Like, that makes it even better. So anyway, we all kind of here at the table, we all have sort of like similar but different opinions about this movie, varying on different things. Some things we agree on, some stuff we kind of don't.
Right.
But what I think we can probably all agree on is that so much of this movie, this is not the kind of movie, even though it's an ending of a phase,
It's not an ending.
it's not an ending. This is a setup.
It's a
for
rebirth.
Yeah, it's a setup for what's going to come to a head later. And I think that even for you, with things that you don't like, things that for me, for things that I didn't like about this movie, Vito liked almost everything about the movie.
Pretty much.
I think that, but let's just say, even if it's not a matter of like or dislike, but questions that you're left with, like,
Yes.
well, what does this mean? What's this gonna? I think that it's the kind of thing that we're gonna have to revisit later.
Once we know more.
Whether it's on the podcast, or I'm sure we'll be talking, of course, about the future movies and everything, but I think that this is going to some of the jury is going to be out on some of these things until we see what it leads to, because it's not the ending. This isn't the final chapter. This is the end of
Infinity War.
It's the end of this section of the book, and now we're heading into this section of the book, and there's things. So it'll be interesting to see what we think about it. But anyway, I think that's it. We've talked about 2 hours, almost 2 hours. Yeah,
An hour more than we
Wow.
planned.
Yeah, whatever.
That's what we do.
You know what? I mean, in all honesty, I'm putting this out there because I know there's people that asked and said we want to hear it. I know people say, "Oh, it's kind of long. You guys do stuff that's too long." Hey, look, again,
We tried.
I mean, there's a reason there's a pause function, and we can put chapters in it and stuff like that for make it easier. But a movie of this magnitude that's kind of ending like we said, ending a whole chapter that was 22 pieces long.
That's insane.
It's hard to just wrap that all up in 45 minutes or something. There's just too much to talk about.
Mm-mm.
But now we can move on. And move on we're going to do because, now we're going into June and we're going to have all sorts of new things coming out for the show. We're going to have new features that we got to get working on.
Yeah.
And gotta so it's kind of cool. This is kind of like a cool way to sort of like wrap up our first year because we started putting things out in May
That's
of
true.
2018.
Mhm.
And, one of the first things we ever did was the movie review of
Infinity War.
Wars. So to kind of cap it off with a full movie review of, Endgame, just give us our 2 hours, motherfuckers, okay? Just, especially since everything that we're going to have, well, not everything, but a lot of what we're going to have coming out next month starting this summer is going to be a little bit more compressed and
Mhm.
concise.
Digestible.
Yeah,
Yes.
the segments we're going to be doing, Vito's segments, Megan's segments, my segments. We're still going to be doing segments together as a group and
Mhm.
everything, and we'll be crossing over in each other's segments as well.
Mhm.
But most
A cross
of
segment, if you will.
yeah, exactly. Cross pollination. But they're going to be a lot shorter. We're going to make a concerted effort due to the nature of them that they're going to be a little bit easier to digest in small pieces. So for you guys that go, I don't have 2 hours. Well, don't worry. We've got some cool stuff coming up.
Got something planned for you.
Yep.
So if you're interested, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.
Yes, please. I know some of you might be listening to this audio cast thing that I'm going to put up on YouTube with some pictures and all that bullshit like I usually do for the audio only podcast. But for you guys that are listening to this on Stitcher and Podbean and
iTunes, whatever you're listening to it on.
yeah, Spotify especially. We're on Spotify,
Yeah.
folks. Easy peasy to listen to on there. Just
Lemon
save it.
squeezy.
Yep. Make sure you not only that you like add us, follow us on there and everything. Please rate us, leave reviews, click little hearts and whatever. We need that kind of stuff. I know it's so easy to just kind of
Not do it.
not do it because you're not sitting there thinking about it. But boy, oh boy, when you do it, it helps us tremendously.
And we like to know you're out there.
Mhm.
And we need to know you're out there. Otherwise, it's like, why the fuck are we doing this? Well, we do this to entertain
We love
ourselves
ourselves.
too. But yeah, we just love ourselves. Three Tony Starks here. Well, a couple of Tony Starks and a Captain Marvel. Because
Yeah, there you
she's
go.
pretty pleased with herself too.
That's true.
she likes herself quite a bit. So. But anyway, all right. We will be back soon with more stuff. So check it out now. Funk Soul
Podcasters,
Brothers.
assemble. Do you think anybody heard him when he whispered assemble?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
I
What
think
about
it-
like the
I
guys
think a
all the way in the
pin-
back? Did they hear him? Wait, Tony, we're Captain. What should we do? And then everybody else is in the bed. Oh wait, okay, here we go. And they'll just
No,
So
take
did you
I
it.
say it? Did you say it? Oh, he must have said it. We got to go.
I think the important people heard it. All the main Avengers were gathered around him, So. And how awesome was it when he fucking says, "Hey, Cap, on your left."
Yes,
I'm
Yeah.
just
that was like, yes.
yeah. It was so awesome. Anyway,
All
how
right,
they
seriously.
start my favorite movie, on your left. Anyway, all right. See, we're gonna keep talking about
Yeah.
it. All right, we're out of here.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.